my name is Caroline Chang, and I am the host and producer of Awake to Oneness Radio. I want to thank Becca and Valerie, if I'm saying that right, I'm bad with names, for inviting me to speak today. So the title of my presentation is The Solution to All the World's Problems. I wanted to focus on the solution, not the problem. Initially, I had titled it "The Problem of all the world's the biggest problem," and it's a single solution. So it's a very simple solution. Okay, we could go to the first slide. Okay, you have to hit it twice to build it. The second time will build the slide. Yes. Okay. My journey to awakening began very early. When I was a child, very young child, my parents sent me to Catholic school. And in Catholic school, you went to religion class every day. Now, as a young child, I was 5 years old. In kindergarten, first grade, 6 years old. What I was being taught in Catholic school did not resonate with me. Now, I did not know that word at that age, but what I was being taught, the dogma of Catholicism, just did not sit right in my soul as a young person. But I couldn't. My parents, especially my father, was very strict. And he said children are to be seen and not heard. So I couldn't say to my parents, well, what I'm being taught in religion does not sit well with my soul. Couldn't say that at 5 years old. But it still, I knew that when I grew up, I wanted to find something that resonated with me as truth. And it didn't at a very young age. We can move on to the next slide. Yes, once to build it and then once to, yes. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Roseanne, my assistant, with the slides. Okay, so when I was in my teens, I had a crush, my first crush when I was about 14, and he was older, he was 19, he was my cousin's best friend. But he was very interested in making money, and we weren't dating or anything because I was too young, but because I had a crush on him, anything he said was like the gospel to me. So he said, oh, you got to read this book, Think and Grow Rich. Now, his interest in it was to get rich. And I said, I read it because he told me to read it. But what interested me in that book, it was the first time I was ever introduced with the idea that our thoughts create our own reality. So that was like something like that was my first aha moment, like, what, really? And then it sounded really good, but I didn't really understand it because it was the first time that was introduced to me, the idea that our thoughts can create our reality. Next slide. And so for the next 30 years now, I ran away from home at the age of 17 and married my first boyfriend and started a family young. And during that time, though, I'm still searching. So I read metaphysical books, I read spiritual books. They all sounded really, really good to me. They resonated much more than the religious dogma. I was like, yeah, this sounds good. But I felt like there was something in my soul. It was one thing I was missing that would put it all together for me. I was like confused and said, but I felt in my soul, there's just one piece missing here. And I didn't know what that one piece was. So, next slide. So what awoke in me to that one piece, that missing piece, was science. So I was studying metaphysics, I'm studying spirituality, I'm reading as much as I can on that. But what awoke in me to that one piece was when I watched the film in 2007. It was a documentary, What the Bleep. And when I watched this film, there was one statement. Next slide, sweetie. One statement that really woke me up, and it was awakening. It wasn't an intellectual, like the film is about science. I'm not a scientist. Someone just asked me today, do I have a science background? I do not have a science background. But the one sentence that woke me up was, the biggest problem in the world today is the illusion of separateness. Now, when Lynn McTaggart, who is not a scientist, she's a journalist, when she made that statement in that film, something literally woke up inside of me. I'm like, I get it. Everything is one. We're all connected. And it was just that one knowing, and it was a knowing inside me, everything made sense to me from that one knowing. And then, so once I understood quantum physics from a layman's term, not a science term, it talks about quantum entanglement, which Einstein, now the other thing about quantum physics, it's over 100 years old. Quantum physics is not new science. And Einstein would call what is called now quantum entanglement, he called it spooky action at a distance. And he didn't like it because he couldn't understand it. But what quantum entanglement basically says, that if a particle is entangled and you separate that particle, no matter if you put it on Jupiter, one of the particles, and the other particles on Earth, if one turns, the other's going to turn at the same exact time. So there's no distance. It's not like one turns and then it's got to catch up to the other. It's instantaneously, meaning everything, all particles are entangled. All particles are affecting each other simultaneously. And so, like I said, quantum physics is over 100 years old. It's the science of all of our new technology, our smartphones, our computers. All of today's technology is based on quantum physics. So it's like some people will say, oh, that's crazy science. It's not crazy science, because that's the science we're using today for all of our technology. So, and the core of quantum physics is that everything is entangled. Everything is connected. Next slide. And so the unified field theory is basically saying all particles in the universe, not just on Earth, but everything in the universe. They talk about the Big Bang, that everything was entangled at the Big Bang, and everything was one, and then there was a Big Bang, and then that all the particles just got spread out in the universe. But those particles, when you understand quantum entanglement, are still entangled. They're not separate. So it's really just one thing in the universe. Whatever I call, my term for God is all that is. I mean, there is nothing outside of God. Nothing exists outside of God. And we're all aspects of God. And we're all connected in what we affect each other. And it's actually scientific. Spirituality has been talking the truth of oneness for eons. But quantum physics has now been talking the truth of oneness for the past 100 years. Next slide. Okay, I love this particular slide because I love how the shape of the world is in the eye, in the shape of an eyeball. Because when you understand, now a lot of people are talking about unity and oneness nowadays. But here's how you know if a person really, really understands oneness. If you know in the core of your being that you're looking at another person, and you know that other person, they might appear separate, they might seem separate, but you know that person is not separate from you. So when you look into the eyes of another person, and you know that you're just looking into your own eyes, that's when you understand oneness at its core. Okay, next slide. Yep, that's good. That should build, yes. Okay, now another awakening moment happened for me when I was very young, in 7th grade science class, when we were studying molecules and atoms, and I'll never forget the moment my science teacher said to us, nothing is truly solid. I think we all learned that in grade school when we were studying molecules. So if you take this podium and you put it under a high-powered microscope, what do you see? You see tiny particles that we call atoms, and they're moving. So that tells us a couple of things. That it has life, it has movement. And those particles are not touching. And they also discovered recently, within an atom it's 99% empty space. So it's not solid. We feel with our limited senses, we feel that we're living in a solid universe. In truth, we're not. We're living still, everything is energy vibrating. And where we're living in the third dimension, the energy is, the vibration is very low. So it's very dense. So that density makes things feel like they're solid, but in truth, they're not. And we all learned that in grade school, that nothing is truly solid. We are not truly living in a solid world. It just appears solid. Okay, next slide. Okay, now the visible spectrum of light. Basically, if you're looking at this graph, it shows us there's a little sliver in the kind of towards the middle of what we can actually see with our physical eyes. So most of what is surrounding us, we cannot see with our physical eyes. Now, science has proven this because science has instruments that can detect things that we can't see. So it is predicted that with our human eyes, we can only see about 0.35% of what is actually around us. So there's much more in this room than us, than the chairs, and what we can physically see with our human eyes. And again, this has been proven scientifically, that there's much more happening that we cannot see. Okay, next slide. Also, a recent discovery in science is dark matter and dark energy. And scientists say the universe, but when they say the universe, they're also talking about Earth. We're part of the universe. That the universe, there is 90, I can't see those numbers from here, but like 96% dark energy matter. I'm trying to read the slide from a while, but it's a lot. There's a lot of dark energy and dark matter, meaning that we can't see. But science has also discovered that there's something there. We can't see it, just like there's a lot going on around us right now. We can't see, but there's something there. Instruments have detected that most of the universe is made out of dark energy and dark matter. Next slide. Okay, so in essence, the last few slides have been telling us that our five senses of sight, smell, hearing, touch, our five senses that we rely on as human beings are very limited. So I like to say, if a person says, well, I only believe what I can see, then they're really negating a lot. I mean, a large percentage of what is actually around us. And again, this is science. And I talk a lot about science because it was science that woke me up to spirituality. And I understand that science and spirituality are truly saying the same thing right now. And science is just at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to learn scientifically. But they are aligning. Science and spirituality are very much in alignment right now. Next slide. Okay, heart and brain. Okay, a lot of times we live from our from our brain, We live from our brain. And our brain intelligence basically comes from our five limited senses. So what we can see, what we can taste, what we can touch. So our brain intelligence is very limited because we only rely on our five senses for our brain intelligence. But now science has proven that our heart is way far more intelligent than our brain. And there's a organization called Heart Math. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Heart Math. Please Google them. They're really, really a wonderful organization. But they have been doing a lot of research comparing the brain intelligent to the heart intelligent, and they found that the heart is much more intelligent than your brain. So what you want to do is live from your heart. We all get that because we all have dreams and goals and things we feel in our heart. But then we let our head say, oh, no, we can't do that. We don't have enough education. We don't have enough money. We can't do that. We allow our brain to tell our heart to shut up. When our heart's much smarter than, because our heart intelligence is connected to our higher self, our greater self, our God self that knows all. So that's why the heart is so much more intelligent, because it's connected to our spiritual self. Because we are truly spiritual beings. And I think 80%, doesn't matter what religion you are, I think at least 80%, if not more, of the world does believe that we are spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And when we understand that we are really infinite spiritual beings, and our heart is attached to that infinite wisdom. And when we follow our heart and we tell our brain to shut up, even though it's scary, it is scary. I have to admit that because I've been doing it the last few years. Okay, next slide. Okay, what is oneness? Now, when I first launched my show, Awake to Oneness, about 5 years ago, I was asked, what is this oneness? Is it a new religion? And I said, no. Oneness is the opposite of a religion. And I say it's an opposite because oneness is all-inclusive. Oneness is that there is no separation. It doesn't matter your religion. It doesn't matter your color. It doesn't matter your race. It doesn't matter anything. It doesn't matter where you live. You're still one. And so there is no separation when you truly embrace oneness. So to me, it's the opposite of religion because I have nothing against religions. I have respect for all religions. And I think at the core of all religions is oneness and love, unconditional love. But sometimes religion can divide us. I mean, we've all heard of the holy wars, which to me is like, holy war? How do you put those two words together? You know, but many wars have been fought over religion. So that's why I say oneness and unity is unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness and unconditional acceptance of another. Okay. And I think I mentioned this in the last slide, that all religions, if you really study the core of all religion, you will find unconditional love, which is truly oneness. And that's the basis of all our major religions. I think the symbol on the screen is very similar. I can talk, can I? Similar to your logo here. Okay, next slide. Thank you. Okay, there are two types of consciousness. There are unity consciousness. Maybe hit the arrow. It didn't build. I'm not sure why. Okay, unity consciousness, separation consciousness. Separation consciousness is what we're living in now. And with separation consciousness, you get war. Now, the second kind of consciousness is unity consciousness. With unity consciousness, you have peace. So we've been living hundreds and hundreds of years in separation consciousness, thinking that we're separate. So it's okay to kill that person. It's okay to rob from that person. It's okay to hurt that person because they're separate from me. You know, and they're in a different country. You know, it's okay to go over there and kill them because they're separate. That's not hurting me. You know, that's how we've been living for many centuries. Okay, next slide. So, in separation consciousness, you have hunger. Next slide. We're going to go through these next slides pretty quickly. In separation consciousness, you have poverty. You have homelessness. You have severe poverty. It's like the rich are like way up there, and you have poor people way down. I mean, this disparity is, we all can see that. Next slide. In separation consciousness, you have illness and disease, and sickness, because a lot of what's making us ill is from the fact that we're thinking more about making money. We don't care about what we put in our bodies. We don't care what the masses are eating. GMO. Why is there GMO? Really? We know it's not good for you. I mean, this is like a no-brainer. So, next slide. And also because we're in separation consciousness, you have mass shootings, you have mass school shootings, you have war, you have crime. All of this comes from the fact that we think we're separate. So that as a separate person, I can go and I can hurt another person. Now, in unity consciousness, next slide, you have world peace. Yes, I think it's just, they're coming up, but yeah, slower. Thank you. Thank you, Roseanne. Yes, so next slide. So you have world peace. I think it'll come. I think that one will build. It should. No, it's not. Okay, okay. In unity consciousness, you have unconditional love. You have unconditional acceptance and unconditional forgiveness. That comes from understanding that other person, no matter how different they appear, no matter even if their beliefs are totally opposite of yours, you still know that person is a divine being and connected to you. It's not about agreeing. It's about being able to love another person with respect without agreeing. Agree to disagree. I believe that one of the things humanity suffers from is I have to be right-itis. Meaning, let another person have their belief. You have your belief and share in love. You don't have to agree, but to be able to share in love. Next slide. This is my favorite symbol. This is my favorite symbol of God. All that is, source. Notice how the black and the white in the yin-yang symbol is equal. You don't have the white is not more white than black. It's completely equal. And God is equal. What we determine and label good and bad is all God. So when you understand that it is all, there is nothing separate. If it is, it's a part of God. So when we understand that and accept that it is all God, we don't have these judgments that we put away. We get rid of judgment when we understand everything is God. Next slide. Okay, now getting back to the science, science has proven that everything is energy. And everything is the same energy vibrating at different frequencies. So what I was just talking about, the black and the white, what we consider good and bad, it's all frequency. So you have what we consider light is a higher frequency. What we consider dark is a lower frequency. But it's the same energy vibrating at different frequencies. Next slide. So us, with our limited human senses, we label things good, evil. We label things, black, white. We put labels on everything. And we do that. We label things with our limited human senses, not understanding, looking at the bigger picture, that everything is one. And everything is a part of each other, and it's just vibrating at different frequencies. And you can take something that's at a low vibration, and you can raise that vibration just by raising your vibration. So if you're in a disagreement with a person, you don't have to argue with that person. You could just, not even being in the same room, you can send that person love and light. And you sending that person love and light, it's going to raise their vibration. And you'll be surprised how they're going to change because of you're sending them love. You're sending them that vibration. Next slide. Okay, our toughest challenges in life. Now, from the limited human perspective, our challenges, why am I going through this? And in truth, from a spiritual perspective, and this is very hard to understand from a human perspective, but from a spiritual perspective, you're greatest challenges are your greatest blessings, because you actually have set those challenges up for yourself to help wake yourself up. So usually a challenge will do one or two things. It'll send you in one direction or the other. It will help awaken you, or it will have you go very, very down into your vibration. So, but all of our challenges are set up to help awaken us. Next slide. My greatest challenge was my son transitioning 5 years ago. Kyle was born in 1984. He transitioned in 2014. He was a few months before his 30th birthday. He was 29. And that was my biggest challenge. Now, I had already awoken to oneness before this, but even in 2011, a couple of years before he transitioned, doctors had told me he wasn't going to live. And I said to myself, okay, I'm done. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I tried to commit suicide in the hospital. I took a bottle of over-the-counter sleeping pills in the waiting room. I wrote a suicide note, said, I'm not going to bury my son. My son's going to bury me. I wanted them to give him, his heart, he was, at the time, he was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, but he had pneumonia. And they thought because his heart was so weak that he wouldn't recover from pneumonia. So I wanted them to take my heart and give him my heart so he could get better. That was in December, around Christmas time. That was December of 2011. Doctors had said he wasn't going to make it. I tried to kill myself. They put me on a separate floor and had me on 24-hour suicide watch. They would allow me to visit because I never gave them the okay. They wanted to take him off life support because I never gave the okay, they couldn't. And so they allowed me to visit with him on life support for about a week. And the last time I visited with him on life support, I whispered in his ear. I said, Kyle, get better so we can both go home. That night, he pulled himself off life support and he was completely fine. It was a true medical miracle. The doctors were stunned. They're like, because he pulled out the ventilator, he pulled out the feeding tube, and his vital signs were perfect, like he was never. And the doctor even said to me, it was like he was never even sick. And so a week after that, he and I both went home. We came home, actually, tomorrow is the anniversary. We came home December 30th, 2011, the day before New Year's Eve. And I'll never forget, when we got home, I promised God, I said, God, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I truly don't. I mean, God could have taken him the next day. But to be able to bring him home and to give me this miracle, I will never stop thanking you. And I have never stopped thanking God from that moment. So 2.5 years later, the spring of 2014, he got ill again. He was going to the hospital, same hospital in Philadelphia. And as he was going to the hospital, as the ambulance was taking him to the hospital, I was thanking God. And so my son did transition July 1st of 2014. And when he transitioned, I was at complete peace because I knew 3 things. I knew he wasn't going anywhere. I knew these are just spacesuits that we're wearing temporary while we're here. But we have a car, but we're not our car. We have a body, we're not our body. So I knew he wasn't going. I knew it was a soul plan he and I made. I knew before we incarnated here that we had made this plan that he was going to leave a little bit before me and I had work to do. And I knew that it was his time. I do believe nobody, doesn't matter the age, I believe nobody leaves this planet before their soul says it's time for you to come back. So even we know that children, we know there are accidents, there's children that die, babies that die, but I believe it's a soul plan. Their soul has a time when they come in, their soul has a perfect time to come in, and their soul has a perfect time to leave. And anytime a loved one of ours leaves before we do, it's actually a wake-up call for us to do kind of what we came here to do. Because they're not leaving us, they're very much with us. I have quite a bit of physical evidence that my son is still with us. And actually, if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll be able to actually hear his voice from spirit and see images of him from spirit. I took those slides out of the presentation just to speed things up this morning. But I'll give you guys a card. You can hear my son's voice from spirit, and you could also see images of him from spirit. I have physical evidence. He's right here. He says he's very proud of what I'm doing, and he's my partner. He's my co-host. Next slide. So 6 months after Kyle's transition, Spirit woke me up in the middle of the night. It was 1:30, January 7th, 2015. And Spirit said, just do it. I heard that loud and clear. And I knew what the just do it was because my heart had been telling me I want to start an internet radio show and I wanted to start a foundation in Kyle's memory. Now, Kyle gave me his name. I did not know what to name him. I was about 8 months pregnant, and the name Kyle came to me in a dream. He whispered that name to me in a dream. Kyle, I founded a nonprofit organization, the Kyle Foundation, but Kyle I spell in capital letters because it's an acronym. Kyle stands for Keep Your Light Expanding. So that morning, early in the wee hours of the morning, I got up, I Googled, how do you start an internet radio show? How do you start a nonprofit? And I took the first steps that my heart was telling me to do. I didn't listen to my head saying, oh, you can't do that. I just did it. Yes. Okay. Oh, this one has one of my favorite quotes. I love the poet and the philosopher Rumi, who says, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are an ocean in a drop. Because we are holographic, multidimensional. We are aspects of God. All that God is, we are in a tiny drop. Like if someone took a tiny cell from your body and they knew how to clone, they could clone another you. Because all of you is in that tiny drop. And so we are each cells of God. All of God. Not just a piece of God. But all of God is in each of us. Next slide. And also unique. I like to stress this word unique because people are saying, well, we're not all the same. No, we don't look the same. We're all unique aspects of God. And there's no one like us. If you think of as the universe as a puzzle, where our piece can only fit in that spot. So nobody can do what you came here to do. No one can fulfill your purpose. Each of us has a unique being purpose here on the planet. And if we don't follow through with our purpose, it doesn't get done because no one else can fill our spots. So we are all unique aspects of God, and we're supposed to be. That's the unity within diversity, because we are supposed to be diverse. But we should be able to love each other with our diversity. Yes. Okay, the other thing, one of my other favorite books is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And when you understand that there is no time, and Einstein's quote, time is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. So this is something Einstein discovered over 100 years ago. There is no time. Time is a measurement that we use in this realm. But in spiritual realm, there is no past, future. There's only the now. We're all living many lives right here and now. In many different eras right here and now. And your power is in the now. Because it's a rippling effect. So when you decide to wake up here and now, it ripples to all your other lives that you're living. And you feel it somehow that, oh, something's changed. Not sure what, but something has changed. So your power is always in the now. I know some people say, well, I want to figure out what I did in a past life and fix that. And no, you don't have to do that. If you want to, you can, but you don't have to, because your power is right here and now. You wake up in the now. You get enlightened in the now. You're not in the past or the future, because all there is now. Next. So science and spirituality are truly saying the same thing. We are at the doorstep of the 2020. I was about the 21st century. No, we're already 20 years into the 21st century. 2020, we're knocking at 2020. And 2020 spiritually, I've heard this message many times from channel message, that 2020 is a year of clear vision. We use that term. If you have 20/20 eyesight, you don't need glasses. See, I don't have 20/20 eyesight. But 2020 is supposed to be a year of clear vision. Spiritually, for the planet, we are living in amazing times. People are awakening in droves. And each person that awakens, it's a rippling effect for the universe, not just the planet. So, next slide is the last slide. Thank you.